Opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 8 News Now or Nexstar Media Group.
Who's going to be cleaning between cohorts, and how will this be monitored and tracked?
Tonight on Politics Now, many questions remain for school next school year. We're going to break down the superintendent's plan at CCSD and what trustees thought he did not address. Plus,
no shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service.
Masks are now mandatory in public statewide. We have the reaction to the new order. And how many ballots ended up mismatched with missing signatures from the primary, and how many were not counted? We'll have that.
From 8 News Now, this is Politics Now.
Thank you very much for joining us. I'm John Langler. Clark County students, parents, and teachers are starting to get a glimpse of how school will reopen in August. Thursday night, CCSD's school board discussed plans for a very different learning experience for everyone. At the core, students would split education time between the classroom and distance learning. Sasha Loftus reports.
None of us could have ever imagined that this world in which we currently live are experiencing the challenges that we're experiencing.
Proposing a plan for an unprecedented time, Clark County School District leaders share ideas to move forward.
I would really hope that teachers who are also in vulnerable populations also just be allowed to teach those remotely.
Thursday's regular board meeting was more focused on clarification than conversation.
Who's going to be cleaning between cohorts, and how will this be monitored and tracked?
Trustees and community members asked dozens of questions about the superintendent's suggestions to blend learning and limit some course lengths coming into the fall semester.
We have encouraged our employees to go and get testing. I know that CCA has looked into it. We just don't have the funding.
Topics mainly turn to testing, cleaning, and individualized educational program procedures.
The two-day model just doesn't work for them, and they need more support.
The discussion simply marked the start of this detailed design, but the team says it will work to keep kids a top priority.
The desire to keep our children safe, happy, and healthy moves us really to the core of our very existence.
Sasha Loftus, 8 News Now.
Now, there was also a survey done of school district employees by the Gwynn Center. Given the current state of COVID-19 and policies, 49% said they'd be uncomfortable returning to the classroom. And if there's no vaccine, but the district institutes all health precautions they wanted, 31% said they would still be uncomfortable going back to class. The school board is expected to take a final vote on this July 9th. It does have to submit a plan to the state education department. That'll be on July 13th. Well, local attorney and mother Colleen McCarty has started a petition to push the school board at CCSD to make a quicker decision. Colleen, also a former Channel 8 employee, although our paths did not cross. And Colleen joins us here on Zoom. Thank you for joining us here on Politics Now, Colleen.
Thank you so much for having me, John. It's great to be back.
So, talk about this petition and why you believe, as a parent, it's so important for CCSD to make a quick decision when it looks at the next upcoming school year.
So our emphasis from the beginning has been to shake loose the plan. We need to know what the plan is so that there's plenty of time for implementation, not only on the school district side, but the community side. We as parents need to understand what we're now going to have to do. Employers need to understand what their employees' needs are going to be. And the students have to begin to start to wrap their head around what a new school year in COVID looks like.
You know, we've heard from the superintendent, we've heard from some of the school board members. They seem to admit that this isn't a perfect solution. But as a parent, what is it like to sort of be in this sort of ambiguous middle ground right now?
It's very challenging to be stuck in limbo because you want to be able to plan for your own lives and you can't. That's why we believe it is just so important now that we have the plan that it be approved July 9th. That's the target date. They have to stick to that target date so that we can begin implementation across the board and we can start to discover all the things that we're going to uncover, the challenges that will arise that we haven't anticipated.
So a key part of the plan is splitting the days on campus for students, 2 days on campus, 3 days off. How does that sit with a parent who has to sort of work around that schedule?
I think it's a lot for people to digest, a lot for people to digest, because how we have done school is now been completely turned on its head. My kids used to have 30 hours a week of instructional time at school. Now they're going to have 8 hours a week of instructional time. You've gone from, 5 days a week at school to 3 days a week at home. It's a huge challenge, and we as parents have a lot to do to figure out how we're going to make this work.
All right, so there's a petition that you've started to try and motivate the district to act faster, the school board. There's a whole lot of processes that have to happen here. What could the district do, aside from maybe more transparency, what could they do to alleviate some of your concerns and maybe other parents that you've spoken with?
The devil is really going to be in the details. I was encouraged by what I thought was a very thoughtful plan that was presented yesterday. It has clearly been the product of a lot of work and a lot of effort on the part of a lot of people. But now we need to understand better, I think, how all of this is going to actually operate. They're asking teachers to essentially do the in-person classroom instruction and the online instruction. How is that going to work if they're teaching in the classroom 4 days a week? That's just one example. There are so many things that are going to have to shake out here.
And you and other parents certainly are very curious to see how this progresses. We'll see how the petition goes as well. Colleen McCarty, thank you very much for joining us to talk about this very important issue here in the Valley.
Thank you.
Well, Governor Steve SISOLAK says everyone in Nevada now has to wear a mask. We join many other states with a mandate like that to cover our face and slow the coronavirus spread. Sasha Loftus says the new rule is getting mixed reviews.
No shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service.
A direct command from our state's leader means mandatory masks for everyone.
I'm asking all of us to take our independent spirit and turn that into our individual responsibility.
But the decision is bringing a blended response, with Las Vegas locals and tourists weighing in.
If it'll save lives, then I think it's worth it.
To me, in my opinion, it's no much sense.
In a news conference Wednesday, Governor Steve SISOLAK announced the mask mandate will take effect Thursday at 11:59 p.m. He says he made the move to keep businesses open while also protecting the public, citing an upward trend in positive COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations over the last 4 weeks.
This isn't about partisanship. It's not who you're going to vote for president. It's not about your rights. It's not about. This is about protecting the health and well-being of everybody that you come in contact with.
And while some still aren't on board, those who agree with the directive encourage others to think about science and safety.
I would follow what the medical professionals are suggesting that you do.
So Nevadans can continue to navigate this unexpected and ever-changing reality.
They better start wearing masks because it really helps.
Sasha Loftus, 8 News Now.
There are no civil or criminal penalties for individuals who aren't wearing masks. Businesses can be fined, though, if they're not requiring people to wear them. There are exemptions for young children and people with specific medical issues. We have a whole lot more information on this over at 8newsnow.com. Unmatched signatures caused about 6,700 ballots to not get counted in this month's primary election. Nevada's Secretary of State says 12,366 ballots were initially rejected for their signatures. That's about 2.5%. About half of those were counted after election workers contacted the people who voted and confirmed their ballots. About 250,000 ballots that were mailed out were not cast and were returned to election officials. The attempt to recall Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman has not collected any signatures yet. In a halfway point letter to the city clerk, organizers say they are empty-handed right now. They have 45 days to collect more than 6,700 signatures from people who voted for Mayor Goodman in the last election. Businesses coping with COVID-19.
If we stay on top of it and manage it, I think we have what's considered the safest city health-wise standards in the world.
That is the president of the Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. He talks to us about bouncing back from business closures and the recent Supreme Court decision on job discrimination. Next.
Welcome back to Politics Now.
State lawmakers approved another $88 million in cuts to wrap up this year's budget in Carson City. They still have to deal with more cuts in the future, though. The Interim Finance Committee took $21.5 million from one-time appropriations. The other $66.9 million was cut from state agencies. And that's in combination with the $401 million from the Rainy Day Fund, CARES Act money from the federal government, and other cuts at the state level. The Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce of Nevada started up about a year ago, and since then it's grown to 60 members. Tim HAUGHINBERRY is chamber president, and he's also the owner of Back Bar USA. And we discussed Pride Month, the Supreme Court, and COVID-19. Well, let's talk about the Supreme Court decision dealing with job discrimination. This is a very important decision, certainly. Is this that kind of discrimination against the LGBTQ community prevalent here in Las Vegas, in the hospitality industry, just kind of broadly around the valley?
Broadly, no. Nevada's above and beyond. In 1999, we put in legislation that started this whole process. And then 2011, we got trans people to be on the same law. So what the United States Supreme Court has done recently, Nevada's been way far ahead. And I think that's because of the unions and the hospitality industry. Las Vegas is a very diverse workforce, racially diverse, LGBTQ diverse. It's ahead of the game.
There was such a clamor, certainly we saw from Mayor Goodman, but broadly speaking, to reopen Las Vegas. And now we're seeing Governor SISOLAK put into place this mask mandate. Cases are what they are, but from a business standpoint, did Las Vegas open too soon?
I don't believe Las Vegas opened too soon. And I'm not totally, I think, the mayor had a good point. We did need to open. She just didn't have a plan to discuss at the time of the questions, right? So the city was and still is trying to figure out what's that plan. So we're being fluid and we're adjusting. If a person or a guest wants to come to Las Vegas or anywhere for that matter, we're here for them, right? That's what we do. So no, I don't think it opened up too soon. I know we have a rise in testing, but if we stay on top of it and manage it, I think we have what's considered the safest city health-wise standards in the world.
Let's talk about Pride Month. What should the community do? What is being done to help gay and lesbian businesses improve their business, get more attention, and just sort of succeed as this pandemic is sort of lingering around?
So first of all, you can go to our website, right? And you can check out all the gay and lesbian owned businesses here in Las Vegas, Nevada. You can support every small business, and that's what we just touched base on. The city has always supported the city. We're a great community. And whether it's a gay, lesbian-owned business or it's a straight business or a diverse business, whatever you want to call it, it's our community, it's our business, and everybody seems to be supporting it. So for Pride Month, what I love about the gay community, the LGBTQ community, is we support all diversity, right? So with Black Lives Matter going on, I know a lot of the Pride events are actually including Black Lives Matter events and supporting that cause and getting the word out and the voice out. So it's not so selfish where we're sharing our time and getting that message out, because it's about fairness for everyone. It's about equality for everyone. And I think this Pride Month, it's about the LGBT community putting our voice behind all communities.
You can watch the full interview with Tim there on 8newsnow.com, and we have a link to the chamber as well. Toppling statues. Coming up next on Politics Now, the move to upend monuments and the tough penalties President Trump wants for those who do.
You're watching Politics Now.
The Hey Reb statue on UNLV's campus has been removed, and now the university is considering what to do with its mascot and its name. UNLV President Marta Mayana says the decision to remove that statue followed ongoing discussions with the community, also as recent protests around the country have called for racial justice. Now, that mascot was actually a replacement for a Confederate uniform-wearing wolf named Beauregard. That's what Hey Reb was. Miana has not said when she expects to reach a final decision. Statues of Confederate soldiers and former slave owners have been toppled all around the country. Protesters actually tried to remove a statue of former President Andrew Jackson in Lafayette Square in Washington this week, and that angered President Donald Trump. The president's pushing for tough prison sentences for anyone who vandalizes monuments on federal property.
We are looking at long-term jail sentences for these vandals and these hoodlums and these anarchists.
President Jackson forced tens of thousands of Native Americans on a deadly march to relocate to reservations known as the Trail of Tears. Non-Confederate statues have been targeted recently as well. Nevada Congresswoman Dina Titus says museums might be a better place to remember and learn about controversial figures, including Confederate leaders. This week, President Donald Trump issued an executive order suspending most new work visas. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Mark Morgan says the action is designed to preserve American jobs.
It makes sense that as we are at this historic unemployment rate that we're in, we're trying to restart the economy, that we do take a look at that from a global perspective.
There are exceptions for farm and food processing plant workers. Many business leaders, though, are critical of these changes. They think it'll actually slow growth and slow job creation. I spoke with Washington, D.C. Bureau correspondent Alexandra Limon about this order. Our Washington, D.C. correspondent Alexandra Limon joins us to talk about the new work visa restrictions that we were just addressing there. Alex, I guess the question is, has the administration given a reason for extending foreign work visa restrictions, and who would this actually apply to?
Right. Well, this is something President Trump has talked about a lot throughout his entire presidency. He feels that immigrants take jobs away from Americans. Now, we also spoke one-on-one to the Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection. And what he told us is that as we face these continued very high levels of unemployment in the United States, that the Trump administration wants to ensure that jobs here in the U.S. are preserved for Americans. Commissioner Mark Morgan also told us that we continue to see COVID rates outside of the U.S. continue to rise. It is worth noting, though, that in many states, including some Western states, we are also seeing COVID levels rise as well as COVID-related hospitalizations. But at any rate, the administration says that right now, that's why these freezes on work visas are necessary, and they've now extended them through the end of the year. Now, these are some sweeping immigration changes. If you take into account who it affects, it is a lot of people and a wide variety of different visas, from high-tech, highly skilled workers who work in the tech industry, engineers, for example, to college professors, but also some low-skilled seasonal workers, people who work as lifeguards or maids. Some people may not know there are a lot of Europeans, for example, that come to the United States with those types of work visas. Now, the administration does say they are providing some exceptions for farm workers and food processing plant workers to ensure that the U.S. food supply remains stable. However, they say they are not providing any exceptions for the hospitality industry. So this is something that would impact the Las Vegas Strip hotels, for example. And also, notably, Trump hotels and resorts have been known to use these types of foreign workers, but the administration says those visas are not allowed at this time.
And that was Alexandra Limon reporting from Washington, D.C.